there you going? Something's making a funny noise and I can't work out what it is. Okay, let's go to the top here. Here it is. Elon Musk said, hope you're having a great day. 1st of 2023, one thing's for sure, it won't be boring. So I'm thinking a lot more information is going to come out. Il Donaldo Trumpo said, even in the Virgin Islands, people are shouting out, let's go Brandon, but not let's go Brandon. Okay, the other version, F Joe Biden. Even in the Virgin Islands, they're saying it, okay? And he's kind of... Let me see what I can do here without getting too loud. And he's so unaware that he sticks his little fist up in, I don't know. Concerned Grandma said death is a pretty severe side effect. These things are so rancid that not even Bill Gates is defending it anymore. Watch this.
The side effects for the Moderna vaccine sound concerning. We looked. After the second dose, at least 80% of participants experienced a systemic side effect, ranging from severe chills to fevers. So, are these vaccines safe?
Well, the FDA, not being pressured, will look hard at that. The FDA is the gold standard of regulators, and their current guidance on this, if they stick with that, is very, very appropriate. And you know, the side effects were not super severe. That is, it didn't cause permanent health problems for the things that are, you know.
I think death is pretty severe, like this person said, really.
Moderna did have to go with a fairly high dose. And so, you know, to get the antibodies, some of the other vaccines are able to go with lower doses to get responses that are pretty high, including the J&J and the Pfizer. And so there's a lot of characteristics.
He's trying not to smirk. You can see it in his face.
Of these vaccines. It's great that we have multiple of them that are
Bill,
going out there. And yes, I think
you know the data better than I do. But Bill, the data showed that everybody with a high dose had a side effect.
Yeah, but some of that is not dramatic, where, you know, it's just...
Yeah, but some of it is.
You know, super painful. But yes, we need to make sure there's not severe side effects. The FDA, I think, will do a good job of that, despite the pressure.
Smirk. Oh, I really don't like the man. Okay. Lips of TikTok said, very normal behaviour. A whole thread of people calling to murder me. The tolerant left strikes again. And it's a thread on obviously the lady Libs of TikTok. Now that we know what Libs of TikTok lady looked like, we can all agree that it's on site. Hamatite? I don't know. These people are insane. I feel sorry for Libs of TikTok copping that. Bro said we've spent roughly $40+ billion a year on our Indigenous population through programs, health, etc. Oh dear. We spend more on health on average for our Indigenous Australians than we do on the rest of the population per annum. Where the hell is the money going? That's not what that says, but you know. All the people that do this end up passing away from that thing, okay? One aerosol scientist heading towards his third COVID for a year, surrounded by a trainload of lemmings headed to the next case. Do you get it? People who normally do this, I don't know if you've noticed the pattern, but they end up dying from, you know. Okay, this is CNBC saying you really should mask up again, says infectious disease expert. Are you listening to these experts anymore? The triple-demic is hitting too fast and too furious. Yeah, fast and furious, sure. Yeah. Western traditionalists said left-wing architecture is designed to crush the human spirit. Oh my God, look at that. I can't think of anything worse. It really would, if I lived in that, that would crush my spirit. Mark PG said, temps dropping all round the world, polar bear population thriving, abundant rain fills all major dams, Australia's drought-free, no major bushfires over the last 3 years, deaths by natural disasters down 90% over the last 100 years, the Great Barrier Reef is thriving, no wonder Bant and his head nodders are silent. Ah, dear, eh? Craig Kelly's asking what happened to global warming. Climate crazies are scared of frying to death with their delusions of global warming. But Sydney is forecast not to have a single day of 30 degrees plus this summer. Just another inconvenient truth exposing the climate scam. Just another cult. Sydney 30-day weather forecast. Doesn't look like it's going anywhere up over now. Yeah. That's really mild. Okay, this one was interesting. Sorry about the motorbike, that's my neighbour, can't help that. BlackRock is the world's supreme financial colossus, the power behind the UN's global warming hoax, World Economic Forum and drive to globalism. This baleful, invisible and malign entity is the New World Order. Apparently we'll become slaves and we'll be happy. Is that the one I wanted to read? We'll find out. A virtually unregulated investment firm today exercises more political and financial influence than the Federal Reserve and most governments on this planet. The firm BlackRock Inc., the world's largest asset manager, invests a staggering $9 trillion in client funds worldwide, a sum more than double the annual GDP of the Federal Republic of Germany. The Colossus sits atop the pyramid of the world corporate ownership, including in China most recently. Since 1988, the company has put itself in a position to de facto control the Federal Reserve, most Wall Street megabanks, including Goldman Sachs, the Davos World Economic Forum Great Reset, the Biden administration, and, if left unchecked, the economic future of our world. BlackRock is the epitome of what Mussolini calls corporatism, where an unelected corporate elite dictates top-down to the population. Here's how the world's largest shadow bank exercises this enormous power over the world ought to concern us. BlackRock, since Harry Fink founded it in 1988, has managed to assemble unique financial software and assets that no other entity has. BlackRock's Aladdin Risk Management System, a software tool that can track and analyse trading, monitors more than $18 trillion in assets for 200 financial firms, including the Federal Reserve and European central banks. He who monitors also knows, we can imagine. BlackRock has been called financial Swiss Army knife institutional investor, money manager, private equity firm, and global government partner rolled into one. Yet mainstream media treats the company as just another Wall Street financial firm. There is a seamless interface that ties the UN Agenda 2030 with the Davos World Economic Forum Great Reset and the nascent economic policies of the Biden administration. That interface is BlackRock. By now, it should be clear to anyone who bothers to look that person who claims to be the US President, 78-year-old Joe Biden, is not making any decisions. He even has difficulty reading a teleprompter or answering prepared questions from friendly media without confusing Syria and Libya, or even whether he's president. And don't forget Batacafcare and shove it under the pressure. He is being micromanaged by a group of handlers to maintain a scripted image of a president while policy is made behind the scenes by others. It eerily reminds of the 1979 Peter Sellers film character, Sean C. Gardner in Being There. What is less... I've never seen that, but anyway. What is less public are the key policy persons running economic policy for Biden Inc. They are simply said BlackRock. They are simply said BlackRock? Okay. Much as Goldman Sachs ran economic policy under Obama and also Trump, today BlackRock is filling that key role. The deal apparently was sealed in January 2019 when Joe Biden, then candidate and long shot chance to defeat Trump, went to meet with Larry Fink in New York, who reportedly told working class Joe that I'm here to help. Now as president and one of the first appointees, Biden named Brian Deese to be the Director of National Economic Council, the president's main advisor for economic policy. One of the early presidential executive orders dealt with the economics and climate policy. That's not surprising, as Deese came from Fink's BlackRock, where he was global head of sustainable investing. Before joining BlackRock, Deese held senior economic posts under Obama, including replacing John Podesta as senior advisor to the president, where he worked alongside Valerie Jarrett. Under Obama, Deese played a key role in negotiating the global warming Paris Accords. In the key policy post, as Deputy Treasury Secretary under Secretary Janet Yellen, we find Nigerian-born Wally Ademo also comes from BlackRock, where from 2017 to 2019 he was a senior advisor and chief of staff to BlackRock CEO Larry Fink after leaving the Obama administration. His personal ties to Obama are strong, as Obama named him the first president of the Obama Foundation in 2019. And a third senior BlackRock person running economic policy in the administration now is also unusual in several respects. Michael Pyle is a senior economic advisor to the Vice President Kamala Harris. He came to Washington from the position as Global Chief Investment Strategist at BlackRock, where he oversaw the strategy for investing some $9 trillion worth of funds. Before joining BlackRock at the highest level, he'd also been in the Obama administration as a senior advisor to the Undersecretary of the Treasury for International Affairs, and in 2015 became an advisor to the Hillary Clinton presidential bid. Now, why does this feel like a revolving door between BlackRock and the government? The fact that three of the most influential economic appointees of the Biden administration come from BlackRock, and before that, all from the Obama administration, is noteworthy. There's a definite pattern and suggests that the role of BlackRock in Washington is far larger than we're being told. I think everywhere. Never before has a financial company with so much influence over world markets been so hidden from public scrutiny. That's no accident. As it is technically not a bank, making bank loans or taking deposits, it evades the regulation oversight from the Federal Reserve, even though it does what most mega banks like HSBC or JP Morgan Chase do: buy, sell securities for profit. When there was a congressional push to include asset managers such as BlackRock and Vanguard funds under the post-2008 Dodd-Frank law as systemically important financial institutions, or SIFIs, a huge lobbying push from BlackRock ended the threat. BlackRock is essentially a law unto itself, and indeed it is systematically important as no other, with the possible exception of Vanguard, which is said to also be a major shareholder in BlackRock. BlackRock founder and CEO Larry Fink is clearly interested in buying influence globally. He made former German CDU MP Friedrich Merz head of BlackRock Germany when it looked as if he might succeed Chancellor Merkel, and former British Chancellor of Exchequer George Osborne as political consultant. Fink named former Hillary Clinton Chief of Staff Cheryl Mills to the BlackRock board when it seemed certain Hillary would soon be in the White House. He has named former central bankers to his board and gone on to secure lucrative contracts with their former institutions. Stanley Fischer, former head of the Bank of Israel and also later vice chairman of the Federal Reserve, is now senior advisor at BlackRock. Philip Hildebrand, former Swiss National Bank president, is vice chairman at BlackRock, where he oversees the BlackRock Investment Institute. Jean Boivin, the former deputy governor of the Bank of Canada, is the global head of research at BlackRock's Investment Institute. Yeah, it feels like the whole world and the government, right? And BlackRock are revolving doors. It was this ex-central bank team at BlackRock that developed an emergency bailout plan for Fed Chairman Powell in March 2019 as financial markets appeared on the brink of another 2008 Lehman crisis meltdown. As thank you, the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell named BlackRock in a no-bid role to manage all of the Fed's corporate bond purchase programs, including bonds where BlackRock itself invests. Conflict of interest? Much. A group of some 30 NGOs wrote to Fed Chairman Powell by giving BlackRock full control of this debt buyout program. The Fed makes BlackRock even more systemically important to the financial system, yet BlackRock is not subject to the regulatory scrutiny of even smaller systemically important financial institutions. In a detailed report in 2019, a Washington nonprofit research group, Campaign for Accountability, noted that BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, implemented a strategy of lobbying, campaign contributions, and revolving door hires to fight off government regulation and establish itself as one of the most powerful financial companies in the world. There's the revolving door, right there. The New York Fed hired BlackRock in March 2019 to manage its commercial mortgage-backed securities program and its $750 billion primary and secondary purchases of corporate bonds and ETFs in no-bid contracts. US financial journalists Pam and Russ Martins, in critiquing that murky 2019 Fed bailout of Wall Street, remarked, for the first time in history, the Fed has hired BlackRock to go direct and buy up $750 million in both primary and secondary corporate bonds and bond ETFs, exchange-traded funds, a product of which BlackRock is one of the largest purveyors in the world. They went on, adding further outrage. The BlackRock-run program will get $75 billion of the $454 billion in taxpayers' money to eat the losses on its corporate bond purchases, which will include its own ETFs, which the Fed is allowing it to buy. Oh my goodness. Fed head Jerome Powell and Larry Fink know each other well, apparently. Even after Powell gave BlackRock the hugely lucrative no-bid go-direct deal, Powell continued to have the same BlackRock manage an estimated $25 million of Powell's private securities investments. Public records show that in this time, Powell held direct confidential phone calls with BlackRock CEO Fink. According to required financial disclosure, BlackRock managed to double the value of Powell's investments from the year before. No conflict of interest. Or, okay, a very BlackRock in Mexico. BlackRock's murky history in Mexico shows that conflicts of interest and influence building with leading government agencies is not restricted to just the USA. PRI presidential candidate Pino Nieto went to Wall Street during his campaign in November 2011. There he met Larry Fink. What followed the Nieto victory in 2012 was a tight relationship between Fink and Nieto that was riddled with conflict of interest, cronyism and corruption. Most likely to be certain, BlackRock was on the winning side in the corrupt new Nieto regime. Fink named 52-year-old Marcos Antonio Slim Domit, billionaire son of Mexico's wealthiest and arguably most corrupt man, Carlos Slim, to BlackRock's board. Marcos Antonio, along with his brother Carlos Slim Domit, run the father's huge business empire today. Carlos, the eldest son, was co-chair of the World Economic Forum Latin America in 2015 and currently serves as chairman of the board of American Mobil, where BlackRock is a major investor. Small, cozy world. The father, Carlos Slim, at the time named by Forbes as world's richest person, built an empire based around his sweetheart acquisition of Telemex, later American Mobil. Then President Carlos Salinas de Gortari, in effect, gifted the telecom empire to Slim in 1989. Salinas later fled Mexico on charges of stealing more than $10 billion from state coffers. As with much in Mexico since the 1980s, drug money apparently played a huge role with the elder Carlos Slim, father of BlackRock director Marcos Slim. In 2015, WikiLeaks released company internal emails from the private intelligence corporation Stratfor. Stratfor writes in an April 2000 email, the time BlackRock is establishing its Mexico plans, that US DEA Special Agent William F. Dion confirmed Carlos Slim's ties to the Mexican drug cartels. Stratfor asked Dion, Billy, is the MX Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim linked to the narcos? Dion replies, regarding your question, the MX telecommunication billionaire is. In a country where 44% of the population lives in poverty, you don't become the world's richest man in just 2 decades selling Girl Scout cookies. Fink and Mexican PPP. With Marcos Slim on his BlackRock board and new president Larry Fink's Mexican partner in NATO $590 billion public-private partnership alliance, BlackRock was ready to reap the harvest. To fine-tune his new Mexican operations, Fink named former Mexican Undersecretary of Finance Gerardo Rodriguez to direct BlackRock emerging market strategy in 2013. Then in 2016, NATO appointed Isaac Volin, then head of BlackRock Mexico, to be number 2 at Pemex, where he presided over corruption scandals and the largest loss in Pemex history, $38 billion. NATO had opened the huge oil state monopoly Pemex to private investors for the first time since nationalising in the 1930s. The first to benefit was Fink's BlackRock. Within 7 months, BlackRock had secured $1 billion in Pemex energy products, many as the only bidder. During the tenure of NATO, one of the most controversial and least popular presidents, BlackRock prospered by the cosy ties. It soon was engaged in highly profitable and corrupt infrastructure projects under NATO, including not only oil and gas pipelines and wells, but also including toll roads, hospitals, gas pipelines, and even prisons. Notably, BlackRock's Mexican friend, NATO, was also friends not only with Carlos Slim, but with the head of the notorious Sinaloa cartel, El Chapo Guzman. In court testimony in 2019 in New York, Alex, I can't say the name, Cifuentes, a Colombian drug lord who has described himself as El Chapo's right-hand man, testified that just after his election in 2012, NATO had requested $250 million from the Sinaloa cartel before settling on $100 million. We can only guess what for. Larry Fink and the WEF. In 2019, Larry Fink joined the board of the Davos World Economic Forum, the Swiss-based organisation that for some 40 years has advanced economic globalisation. Fink, who is close to the WEF's technocrat head Klaus Schwab, of Great Reset notoriety, now stands positioned to use the huge weight of BlackRock to create what is potentially, if it doesn't collapse before, the world's largest Ponzi scam, ESG corporate investing. Fink, with a $9 trillion to leverage, is pushing the great shift of capital in history into a scam known as ESG investing. The UN Sustainable Economy agenda is being realised quietly by the very same global banks which have created the financial crisis in 2008. This time they're preparing the Klaus Schwab WEF Great Reset by steering hundreds of billions and soon trillions in investments into their hand-picked woke companies and away from the not woke, such as oil and gas companies or coal. BlackRock, since 2018, has been in the forefront to create new investment infrastructure that picks winners or losers for investment according to how serious that company is about ESG, environmental, social values and governance, which was spoken about before. For example, a company gets positive ratings for the seriousness of its hiring gender-diverse management employees, or takes measures to eliminate their carbon footprint by making their energy sources green or sustainable, to use the UN term. How corporations contribute to a global sustainable governance is the most vague of the ESG, and could include anything from corporate donation to Black Lives Matter to supporting UN agencies such as WHO. Oil companies like ExxonMobil or coal companies, no matter how clear, are doomed as Fink and friends now promote their financial Great Reset or Green New Deal. This is why he cut a deal with the Biden presidency in 2019. Follow the money, and we can expect that the New York Times will cheer BlackRock on as it destroys the world financial structures. Since 2017, BlackRock has been the paper's largest shareholder. Carlos Slim was the second largest. Even Carl Icahn, a ruthless Wall Street asset stripper, once called BlackRock an extremely dangerous company. I used to say, you know, the mafia has a better code of ethics than you guys. Well done. Okay, Terence K. Williams said, arrest everyone on Epstein's list and let's bring this new year in the right way. Raise your hand if you'd love to see it happen. I would love to see it. What was the... Oh, yes, the Attorney General for the US Virgin Islands files suit against JP Morgan Chase regarding, which we already know, Angry Aussie said, here you go, Albo. MP, make the only real flag prominent again, or we just keep sharing this. This is my country. I don't need you to welcome me to it. Always was, always will be January 26, which is Australia Day. Gunther Eagleman said Nancy Pelosi knew exactly who Ray Epps was prior to the January 6 Capitol arrest. She hired him. I do believe that's true. Nasty One Reborn. He's been reborn. Said truth. Josh Crooklyn said every recent movie on Netflix, white man is the villain, black man is the hero, gay guy is the voice of reason, woman has the balls, dad is an idiot, mum is the breadwinner, children are sexualized. Netflix is a social engineering, not entertainment. I happen to agree with that. I've seen a lot of stuff lately that's I've just looked at it and gone, like, even the Twilight Zone from the early 2000s, I've looked at it and gone, this is woke. Wow. So it slowly crept in. It's been going on for quite a while. Josh was a free-minded hero. He is sadly missed. Josephine Cashman said we need to rid ourselves of the control of the malign German royal family in London. They are the masterminds of the green genocide agenda, the COVID pandemic, the Great Reset. Yes, Mr. What's his name? Charles. I'm not calling him King because he's not to me. Charles, okay? Charlie boy. He's one of the masterminds. The creators of the Aboriginal Industrial Complex, the Department of Aboriginal Affairs, native title, they have a decades-long plan to use Indigenous issues as a decoy, as they've done in Africa, to asset strip it. It is, in fact, that in partnership with the Saudi royals, there's no bigger promoter of extreme Islamic terrorism than King Charles III, and it's no accident that London is the hotbed of it. And who started Islamic terrorism? Pretty much one of those intelligence agencies, the CIA. Now, it's no surprise King Charles III, patron of all three UK intelligence services behind the brutal regime change operations across the world against the interest of the people of those nations, is now responsible for the brainwashing fascist cult called the Sovereign Citizens, who is responsible for January 6 extremism, the Germany coup and the shootout in Queensland, Australia. This is a global plot. Expose the traitors. Okay. Jan Summers Let Us Be said this, wakey wakey. Oh yes, that was the one I just read. Pelham said there's no food crisis, there's no fuel crisis, there's no energy crisis, there is no health crisis, there is no climate crisis. There is only manufactured crisis to implement global government via Agenda 2030. And I was watching something earlier this morning where someone on the news was asking someone else about, I think it was a CIA agent, someone, about ISIS and all that. And she was saying, oh, that's pretty scary. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's all fear porn. It's exactly what it is. Zachary Tisdale said, do you really want to give the government the power to control your thermostat, to remotely disable your vehicle, to freeze your bank account? That's a quick path to tyranny. Yeah, I don't want that. I'd like to go back to cash, actually. The banks can shove it, you know. Unless you want to, like, save money, you know. And then you can do it either in or out of the bank. Rogan O'Hanley said nothing to see here, just a text from Pelosi's staff secretly editing the January 6th security plan and telling the White House Sergeant-at-Arms to please act surprised when the final draft was published. Translation, Pelosi's staff was directly weakening J6 security and didn't want anyone to know. Thanks, Davis also wants a briefing. Can we do a joint or do you prefer separate? Either way works, obviously. We're making Terry's edits to the Electoral College DC, and if you don't mind, I'll send it to you and Jen as heads up, so please act surprised. And the person said, I'm startled. Breaking, GOP House reps released bombshell report showing Pelosi staff had regular meetings setting up J6 security, helped revise plans and turned down requests from USCP and House Sergeant-at-Arms for more funding of National Guard troops. It was a setup. And that's exactly what Trump offered National Guard too, I believe. Oh, from the Babylon Bee, and you Greta Thunberg thermostat scowls at you when you turn the heat up. It's a joke. Peter Sweeten said you need to be ignoring the mainstream media. You need to distrust everything they say. They are nothing but lying regime propagandists trying to brainwash you. Yep. Late breaking. Appeals court rules Google must face privacy lawsuit for tracking children without parental consent. Oh dear God. Of course they do. Amazing Polly spokesperson official said prediction 9. Creativity will explode and keep on growing out of every crack and crevice for years. She made a few predictions. Hang on. What were her predictions? Anyway, she was making a list of them. Interesting to go over. It's a pity she didn't put them all in her thread. Razorback said, so Melbourne had a Stranger Things New Year's Eve theme. Makes sense after the last few years. Is it a Stranger Things theme? Kind of. That looks a bit like a person with two hands. Oh dear. Yeah, I just like the other old fireworks. I don't know. There was a lot of red at the Sydney one. They look very red to me. There's the green. Some green, some blues. That was Melbourne, by the way. Anyway. I don't know. I can't really see it, but yeah. I don't know. Maybe you can. Come on, man, said Labor have set up another committee of young people being paid handsomely for advice to elbow from the young generation. Aged between 13 and 23, these people have been installed into our Parliament advisory system. This has been kept rather silent, but seems a few Labor kids got jobs. It's interesting that Labor could set this committee up without a referendum to hear the voices of young people, but can't do the same for Aboriginals without constitutional change. Vote no to the Labor lies and deceit. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave that there for today, and I will be back very soon, maybe tomorrow. We'll see how I go. I'm doing well so far this week. Oh, dear. Okay, guys, have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.